that's so great because I do feel like there's a zillion people starting podcasts, and I think a lot of people go into it not knowing what they're trying to do, not knowing their mission, not knowing their why. It's just they're just doing it for fun, and they have definitely evolved. So thank you so much for that. That is fantastic advice. And let me ask you about, we spoke about building $1 million brand basically online, so sounding expensive. What is a top tip? So you can even use me as an example, I don't mind. Like if I wanted to come across more expensive in my voice and my tonality, like I'm selling a house, what are some tips for actually vocally evoking that emotion through your voice?
Hmm. It's interesting because things that are expensive, there's different kinds of things that are expensive. So you have an expensive car,
Mm,
expensive home, an
mm.
expensive product, like skincare or something like that, or
It's
an
almost
expensive
like,
service.
you know what comes to mind? James
What's
Bond.
that?
When James Bond
Okay.
speaks, it's like, you know that, like, and I joke because I've got clients in the UK and they laugh at me because I'm like, you could sell a lot of stuff. Like you sound expensive. But it's that vibe, it's that James
Exit.
Bond type mentality. It's really interesting.
Hmm. So, like the sound of one of the common things I was done with the when people went luxury was just like a bit more breath behind the voice. It's like here's a Mercedes, Ferrari, Lamborghini, like versus like Toyota Corolla, right? Like when you hear the commercials for a Jaguar, what is it? Because we say Jaguar in America, but then you hear I think it's Jaguar,
I
but
prefer how
even
you
that
guys.
sounds. So that's the across the pond kind of thing, but there's a sound of pleasantry where there's a bit of ease. The breath is released in the voice. And so if you go to a restaurant and you're right this way, sir, ma'am, right? Versus like you go to some place that's maybe a bit more booming, like we got the seat for you. You should sit over there, sit over there. And that so the breath, being able to audibly hear a little bit of breath behind the voice. Not too much, because what happens, listen, I tell you this, these are tips to think about. You can make a caricature out of anything. So somebody will hear this and go, so I was listening to this podcast, and Marshall said I needed more breath behind my voice, and now my program is $1 million. That would be overdoing it, right? But that sense of ease, right? I am, when you go to Four Seasons versus a motel, it's a totally different greeting at the door. And so, the luxury is comfort, right? And, so that would be one. Now, again, that depends on what you're selling, because otherwise, other times too, it can be about how clerical you can be, how concise you sound, right? Like very clear, direct, straight to the point. The articulation of things can give a certain sense. Okay, this is of some value, right? When things are a little too loose, depending on what it is that you're selling. And so, if you look at two things, you make any purchasing decisions, you want to have certainty and safety. Both of those are important. Once things get expensive, it's a different kind of certainty and safety, but those two elements apply. It's like, hey, you're safe here. You're just fine. And I'm very certain that this is what's going to happen next. You add those two things together and you scale them up or scale them down, then you're making a sales pitch. If you sound unsafe and uncertain, I'm not buying from you, right? And the more money you're asking me to spend, the more certain, the more safe this needs to be. Unless I'm paying for a very expensive daredevil jump out of an airplane that's being sent, high above the, when you sign a waiver and they're like, well, we're not responsible. It's going to be $1 million for you to climb, to jump on this little spacecraft, but we're not responsible for you on the way down. But for the most part, yeah, certainty and safety, scale those things up and bring those to your voice.